it in. We broke down the door, we came to win. TLA Season 4, it's a whole new game. We the agents of change, whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk, it's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.
Thank you for visiting 32 Kings Road, hosted by the League Ambassadors. I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and it is my pleasure to be here today with my brothers in this new year 2020. As a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. That is Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, please check out our website, theleagueam.com. Please subscribe to and follow our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. This is episode 81, and the playoffs are here. We've already gotten started here in the NFL season, so we will continue to talk about that as well as continue our countdown of the 100 worst players in NFL history in acknowledgement of the NFL's 100th season. We will also provide some prescriptions for some sick teams in the NFL, those teams that are no longer participating in the 2019-2020 season. But first, as always, Kev, what you sipping on, sir?
Gentlemen, Happy New Year.
Yes.
Glad to be back. New Year, same old shit though. Gonna keep it history related. January 8th, the good year of 2000, 20 years ago today. Down 1 point with 16 seconds left on the clock. The Tennessee Titans threw a lateral pass on a kickoff return. It turned into a 75-yard Kevin Dyson touchdown return. A walk-off win, wild card weekend over the Buffalo Bills, which is known as the Music City Miracle. But since around here in Baltimore, it's fuck Tennessee week. I kind of got to take this in a different direction. We do have a very respectful but storied playoff rivalry with them. 23 years ago yesterday, this is definitely worth noting, a star was born. I want to wish a happy birthday to who we call the 8-ball corner pocket, El Freaky, three-eyed Raven, the king in the north. And yes, Omar, your MVP, Mr. Lamar Demetrius Jackson
He showed the
Jr.
fuck ain't.
Oh, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday, kid.
Red O, what you sipping on, sir?
I'm sipping on something that is in a coffee cup, but it ain't coffee. And I'm also sipping on the fact that I was excited for this offseason as a Dodger fan. We had all this money under the cap to spend. We were just close to getting to the World Series again. We won over 100 games. I was excited. All these free agents wanted to come here. All we had to do was spend a little money, and we'd be right back at the top of things. And Stan fucking Kasten did the same fucking thing again. I mean, him and his bunch of smart dummies are starting to fucking disgust me. We are not the goddamn Atlanta Braves. We are not the Atlanta Braves. We are the motherfucking Los Angeles Dodgers. We pull in 4 million people a year at the games. How much money you got to spend? The second biggest market in America. Stop acting like broke bitches. Spend the money and bring in who we fucking need. Somebody else who can actually hit in the playoffs. Somebody else who can pitch in the playoffs. All this regular season heroics is for the Atlanta Braves. We need a World Series. Fuck you, Stan.
And the
We
Buffalo
are
Bills.
8 days into the new year, and Omar has thrown his resolution out the window.
Junior Blue, what you sipping on, sir?
I actually don't have anything to sip on today, so I would like to say
Shout out.
rest in peace to David Stern. His impact on the NBA is crazy. Just to think that before he was the commissioner, the NBA Finals was tape delayed.
Yep.
He took the game international. The game wouldn't be what it is today without him. So rest in peace.
Yeah. That's and it's crazy because he was 77. However, it feels like like a premature death. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the first commissioner that I like grew up with or around that's like no longer here. So I don't know what that says about anything, but it's weird. But yeah, rest in peace. I'm sipping on some Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Holler at us. We're like 8-9 weeks in a row now. I think, we're building a relationship here. But what I am also sipping on, we'll get to some college football because it is football season. And we've got the national title game that is coming up on Monday. I want to talk about that. Also, there was a college / NFL announcement made by one, and I never attempt to say his last name. I just call him Double T. Double T from Alabama, the quarterback.
Tagovailoa.
Yeah. Oh.
Look who
Look,
this
check out the big brain on Brad. And so we'll start there. Tua really stepped into the consciousness of college football fans during the national title game, Alabama versus Georgia, I believe 2 years ago.
First game, right?
He had played during the season, like he had split reps with Jalen Hurts, who, ended up transferring to Oklahoma. But that national title game, him coming in the second half, Alabama gets the win, and then it kind of took off from there. When he has played, and he's played the vast majority of his games, when he has played, has displayed, accuracy, leadership. They've won a lot of games with him. He's had some injuries. He's had 2 high ankle sprains that he came back from much more quickly. He's the first player that I know of that's gone through this, where they do like an ankle surgery to basically expedite the healing process on ankle sprains. But he had an injury this year that you can't expedite. His hip was fractured. It is fractured. And so there was a lot of questions as to whether or not he should, because coming into the season was seen as in the running for being a number 1 pick in the 2020 NFL draft. And because of the injury, there was questions as to whether or not he should come back or if he should just go on and pursue the NFL. He made the announcement this past Monday that he is going to indeed move on to the NFL, leave the University of Alabama. And so the question that I have for you guys will start off with you, Junior Blue. We know how the draft is lined up in the first round anyway. Give me the best team fit for Tua now that he's gone.
I think the best fit would be Miami.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because they don't, although they won a few games this year, they're not expected to contend for the playoffs next year. Most likely he'll have to sit out some games. They would still have Fitzmagic there.
They've got Fitzmagic there. Josh Rosen.
I don't know if he ever sees the field. But they don't expect to see the playoffs. So they could sit him, or even if he plays, it gives him time to learn and mature, so where he has a couple years, because their timeline is not this year or next year.
Right.
They have traded away. Everybody got 1 million draft picks.
Right.
So they're building for the future. They're building for 3 years down the road. Whereas you think of the Chargers. The Chargers, they need a quarterback. Do they need a rookie quarterback? I feel like they're right there if they had the right quarterback.
Okay.
To lead them. So I wouldn't send them there. Washington thinks they have something in Haskins. We already know Cincinnati most likely is taking Burrow.
Right.
So I think Miami is the best fit for him.
So before you tell me if you agree with that, Omar, Miami has the 5th pick. Are you taking a quarterback that is coming off a pretty significant injury, and we still don't know the story of what his recovery is going to be? He even said himself in the press conference that, one of the key sort of checkpoints for him is the 3-month period from the injury. Are you taking Tua at 5 if you're Miami with that uncertainty?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
So,
if Tua is, if healthy, he's a generational talent. I believe so. And if you go to Miami, he can sit for a year and just get healthy. You know, whether his ankles, whether it's the hip, whatever it is, he can sit and just learn and get healthy. Because what Brian's building over there,
Yeah, he's a good coach.
that's something where he would actually benefit to sit and be healthy. And to me, that's where it's perfect, where he goes somewhere where he's not trying to play right away.
So you agree with Les that Miami is the best fit?
Yes.
Okay, Kev, let me ask you, are you going to take him in the top 10 if he can't work out for you, which is a possibility?
Oh, if he can't work out for me, I think and in that case, it depends on the team, because then, okay, like Omar pointed out, Miami, they need somebody to rejuvenate their franchise, someone to build around. So they know they aren't that far off. They know that it's not going to happen next year. So they got maybe 3-4 years before this thing gets put together. I think at that point, then it is worth the risk, because what do you have to lose? We already know this is going to take a few years for them to get to a point where they can seriously contend. If you're the Chargers, then again, I think if Phillip Rivers moves on, if Tyrod Taylor stays there, then he's a great guy that he can play under, or at least sit behind until his health gets to where he's ready to play. I'm looking at maybe even Jacksonville, who I think has the 9th pick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Gardner Minshew, but again, like Omar said previously in the show, it's better to scratch everything and rebuild than to be 500. So again, I think it's a risk that's worth taking, because even if it doesn't pan out, again, what do you have to lose? Best case scenario for your season, you're going to be 7-9, 8-8. So take the risk. It's definitely worth the reward. And if it doesn't pan out, then you're back to where you were this year.
And what's your team that you feel like is the best fit for him?
I think the Chargers, to me, is the most obvious, but I think Indianapolis is worth looking into, because I mean, who's completely sold on Jacoby Brissett? And if you're not, and you really but to get what they got out of this season, I would say no. So I think that's a risk, again, worth taking. Have him sit a year, 2 years to get healthy, find out with Brissett with some type of competition behind him, because like you said, Omar, they're sold on him, but the rest of the NFL
I said they aren't.
So,
No, he said they aren't
sold on him.
Yeah, he said they aren't sold.
They aren't sold on him. So we're going to find out if he has some competition there, either going to rev up his play, or you have his replacement right there waiting in the wing, and you don't lose too much, because the AFC South, except for the Titans and Houston, of course, but that division is always up for grabs.
So on Monday, January 13th in New Orleans, we've got the national championship game. We've got the best team from this season going against the best team from the last 2 seasons. You've got the best quarterback from this season, the Heisman Trophy winner, going against the best quarterback of the last 2 seasons. LSU throttled Oklahoma in their college football semifinal. Joe Burrows, 29 of 39, 493 yards, 8 touchdowns. And then you have Clemson that came back from a 16-point deficit against a very good Ohio State team to win 29-23. I feel like this game will be decided on defense. LSU allows 21 points a game. Clemson only allows 11. Junior Blue, what are you most looking forward to in this game, and who do you got?
Let's see here. LSU has been the best team all season.
That's right.
Head and shoulders.
Clemson to start the season off, they struggled some. They still win, but they're in the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
They don't play nearly the competition that LSU has.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense lost a lot of players that we see every Sunday.
You see a couple up close and personal.
Exactly. So I feel like LSU is going to win. I feel like they're a better team. I feel like although Clemson's defense has come on as of late, I don't think they've seen an offense like LSU's.
And I agree. I think they haven't played anybody. They've played one good team all season, and LSU is stacked. And I think it's their time this year.
Yeah. Kev?
I agree. I think LSU is the better team. I think they're going to win, but I actually think this is going to be a closer game. Well, I hope it's a closer game, and I'm looking forward to there's 2 quarterbacks playing. I mean, we expect to see these guys on Sundays moving forward. I hope it's 1 against 2. This goes down to the last drive, but I just think like the points that you brought up, they play in the ACC. LSU is for real. They're deeper. They're better. And I think they'll come out on top.
All right. Well, let's get to our segment of counting down the worst players in NFL history, according to TLA, the 100 worst. The 4 teams we're going to touch on real quick are the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, the Carolina Panthers, and the Atlanta Falcons. Kev, we will start with you. And just as a reminder, our criteria is that the player in question needs to have either been a part of the team for 3 seasons or have 16 starts. It's 3 players from each team. Kev, who you got?
All right. Cincinnati Bengals. Number 3 spot. We have Mr. Ricky Dixon, defensive back. 5th overall pick, 1988 draft out of Oklahoma. He played 73 games for the Bengals. And other than being selected to the College Hall of Fame last year, it's unfortunately all the information that I have regarding his career. He brought absolutely nothing to the table for the Bengals. And we always look at what could have been for that franchise that's devoid of talent. Tim Brown, Sterling Sharp were the names drafted right after him. Then some guy named Michael Irvin and Randall McDaniel.
Wow.
What year was that?
But 88.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
And then putting Mr. Dixon's resume together, I recently learned that he was diagnosed with ALS. So I feel like shit.
It's like you
But
just
that-
found out right now.
Somebody slid you a
I'm
note.
looking at that doesn't
He
change.
got slid a note.
He's on someone's top 3, and that's what's important.
Fuck, man. You a cold piece of work. I thought I was cold.
What's funny is that Kevin low-key has his own production coordinator at his house.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking, and it's like, no, stop.
I don't
Okay.
think you should do this, sir.
That's fine. There are 2 other names on this list. So at number 2, we have Mr. David Klingler, quarterback.
Ooh, trash.
6th overall pick in the 92 draft out of Houston. He threw 716 yards in a single game in college, 11 touchdowns in another. He was legit at the collegiate level. But when he got to the NFL, it did not pan out. He gave the Bengals 4 seasons, 24 starts. He had a 4-20 record. That is 4 wins, 20 losses. He was sacked 83 times. He averaged a mere 125 passing yards a game. Never threw more than 6 touchdowns in a single season. He is one of many Bengals quarterbacks that did not pan out, which leads me to number 1. And it's probably not the name you thought you were going to hear. I'm going to do my best to put this out into the universe. Running out at number 1, the worst Cincinnati Bengals player of all time is Kabisi Kili Maradufu.
Huh?
And to translate in Swahili, Kabisi means completely. Akili means absolute. And Maradufu means double, which if we translate it, we knew from birth that Akili Smith was complete, absolute, double trash. He was absolutely this was just a disaster.
I thought you were going to say complete absolute doo-doo.
Double doo-doo. You got to get his whole name right.
You got to get his whole name right.
So Akili Smith was the 3rd pick in the first round of the 99 draft, as those remember, out of Oregon. The New Orleans Saints wanted to trade for Cincinnati's number 3 pick so they could draft Ricky Williams. You guys remember how much they wanted him. New Orleans' final offer to the Bengals was 9 total draft picks, and that was in the 99 draft and in 2000. 9 picks. But the Bengals said, nah, bro.
We want this trash.
Kabisi, Akili, Maradufu, Smith. So they stuck to their guns and they drafted him. He gave them 22 games, 5 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He was sacked 59 times. And what makes this worse is that the next 4 picks in that draft was Edgerrin James, Ricky Williams, of course, Torrey Holt, and Champ Bailey.
Legit 4 Hall of Famers.
Hall of
next
Famers.
4.
We'll just bypass. So, but for me, what stood out here was that since he really wanted a quarterback that bad, there were 10 others that were on the board in that draft. And specifically, if they wanted a black quarterback, there was a shit ton of those too. They could have drafted Michael Bishop, Aaron Brooks, Sean King, and Dante fucking Culpepper. But they didn't. They went with Kabisi, Akili, Maradufu, Smith.
Wow. And you wonder why the Bengals are bad. Speaking of bad, let's stay with the Bees. I had the Cleveland Browns. And as I was saying before the show, it's funny because Cleveland, really, there was a huge drop-off after 99. And so with that, we'll start at number 3, running back out of Boston College, Mr. William Green. Now, Mr. Green, in his rookie season, started out all right. 887 yards, 6 touchdowns, and they thought they were on to something. Turns out it was nothing. Because in 2003, his second year, he was arrested and charged with driving under the influence, marijuana possession. He got suspended. While he was suspended, he got stabbed by his fiance. Over the next 2 seasons in Cleveland, he ran for a grand total of 660 yards. And then he never played football ever again. First round pick. Number 2, out of Penn State, Mr. Courtney Brown. Now, remember, this was during the stretch when they were spitting linebackers out of Penn State. You had Aaron Maben, you had LeVar Arrington. People often forget about Brown because of my number 1 choice. However, and injuries were a big part of Courtney Brown's downfall. He missed 33 games in 5 years with Cleveland. He had a grand total of 17 sacks. Players that were taken after him: Omar's favorite, Mr. Brian Urlacher, Chris Samuels. Number 1 on this list. And let me pause right here and say special shout out to Johnny Manziel and Justin Gilbert. They didn't quite make it because they only played 2 seasons. Otherwise, both of them would have been on the list. But number 1, Mr. Brady Quinn. Brady Quinn, Notre Dame, 21st pick, first round. The Browns traded up to get him. They traded with the Cowboys. Brady Quinn, in his 3 years, played a total of 14 games. He threw for less than 2,000 yards, and he only had 10 touchdowns. Literally, Brady Quinn was heralded as a freshman at Notre Dame. Every season that he played at Notre Dame, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, was better than every season he had as an NFL professional. The worst quarterback. And to think of it, the Cleveland Browns gave up 2 first-round picks to draft Brady Quinn. There it is.
I thought he was bad in college, but whatever.
Junior Blue has the Carolina Panthers.
The Panthers was difficult because they do well in the first round. So, but they did in 1998, they drafted Jason Peters out of Nebraska. He was supposed to be a dominant defensive end. And what they got out of him...
The white Jason Peters.
Yes. The white one. He went to Nebraska.
I was like, wait, hold on.
He went to Nebraska.
Right.
And,
It's research.
See? And he started 20 games for them in 2 seasons. And if you're going to be a dominant defensive end, you can't have 5 sacks in 20 games. And then after those 20 games, he got injured, and we never heard of him again. So that was the end of his career. And with 5 sacks, he was picked 14th overall in the 1998 draft. So that's number 3. Number 2, Jimmy Clausen. He was chosen in the second round of the 2010 draft.
It's Notre Dame, right?
And in his first season, started 10 games, record of 1-9, 3 TDs and 9 interceptions. And when you draft a quarterback in the second round, early in the second round, you feel like, hey, he could be the guy. Well, they quickly figured out that Jimmy wasn't the guy because in 2011, they drafted Cam Newton. And now Jimmy Clipboard sits on the sideline for the next 2 years of his Carolina Panther career.
Yeah.
And now we get to number 1.
Carolina, number 1.
You should know this guy very well.
R.J. Sauer.
That was Jacksonville.
It was.
Dwayne Jarrett.
That's right.
Second round pick.
Con artist.
Wide receiver. 6'5".
Yeah.
Set records at USC.
Yeah.
Fight on.
He played 4 years with the Panthers.
Mhm.
He only started 3 games, though, because they knew.
They knew.
He totaled 428 yards in his career with 35 catches and 1 touchdown in 4 seasons. He is the worst player for the Carolina Panthers.
Wow. He got 4 years out
He
of him.
got
no?
4 years, yeah.
They was hoping and praying.
Fight on, baby. Shit.
He didn't fight or on.
Red-O, you got the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, buddy. Number 3. This man's name is Andre, but it is spelled like you were saying auntie, A-U-N, and Dre, D-R-A-Y. So Andre Bruce.
Ah, trash.
And really the only reason why he made it to the list is because they drafted him number 1 in the 1988 draft, which is why I asked Kev what year that was. He was the number 1 draft pick. You can't be the number 1 draft pick and have, in a 4-year period, only 176 tackles and 16 sacks. Now, that's okay if you were the 5th round or 6th round draft pick, but not the number 1 fucking draft pick in the league. Not when you pass up, like Kev said earlier, Tim Brown, Keith Jackson, Sterling Sharp, all these Hall of Famers. Matter of fact, 15 of the 27 first-round picks in that draft were future Pro Bowlers or Hall of Famers. And he was the number 1 pick. That's why he's number 3 on the list. Number 2, who is actually should be a trivia question. Who did the Falcons draft with the pick they got for trading Brett Favre?
Oh, we're listening.
Tony Smith.
That sounds like a creative. That's a creative player. That's a creative player.
Running back, 1992, came first round, 19th pick. They traded Brett Favre, and that pick they got, they drafted Tony Smith.
All right.
3-year career, barely. They pretty much got rid of him in year 3 towards the end. It was like, nah, we good.
Uh-huh.
He had a total of 343 yards.
Yeah.
343 yards.
He got a pension though.
So that's a hot 115 season.
For Brett Favre.
For Brett Favre. Yeah.
So, number 1 on the list is Bruce Pickens. And the reason why he's number 1 on the list,
I'm pretty sure I had his card.
he was the 3rd pick in the 91 draft.
Uh-huh.
They picked him before they picked Brett Favre.
Oh, wow.
And then traded Brett Favre and kept Bruce Pickens.
Ooh.
That
means Brett Favre was really on that dope.
He in 3 years, 2 interceptions, 0 pass defended. 0.
It's because he was an island. They ain't even
but here's
throw
the
his
thing.
way.
When they drafted him, that's what they thought. They thought because he was a combine monster. He ran the 4.4.
Okay.
They thought they was going to pair him with Dion, and they was going to have the
They was going to lock it down. Oh.
Yeah. They released him. And here's the thing. There was, I think, Todd Light went 2 picks later.
Todd Light, L.A. Rams.
12-year career, 37 interceptions.
Sure did.
That's just easy for Dion to be a lockdown corner because it's only one direction we throw in this football. It's to him.
Exactly.
And it wasn't like there was a great draft. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brett Favre and Ricky Waters are probably the 2 biggest names out of that draft.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact you got picked not 19. Yeah, you got picked the 3rd pick in the 91 draft.
Right.
And then they took Brett Favre and traded Brett Favre because it would have been nice to keep Brett. So
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, though. All right, so that concludes that. Let's get to our football tea. It's our version of Hot Topics, and it's just one hot topic because when we get to our prescriptions, a lot of the coaching moves and happenings will be covered by the teams that we'll address. And so for the hot topic, the NFL, I believe last week, announced the final 15 for the 2020 Hall of Fame class. This Hall of Fame class will be extra special because of the 100th anniversary of the NFL. So there will actually be 20 members of the class elected, although for the modern members of the class, it will still be the 5, but they will try to clear up some of the backlog from some veteran players that maybe they're not up for consideration for veterans, but they're past that point. So it will be a large class of 2020. We just want to focus on the modern day class. And the final 15, the names are Troy Polamalu, safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Edgerrin James, running back, most notably with the Indianapolis Colts, but he did finish his career in Arizona and Seattle. Zach Thomas, who I don't know what basement he is in, but he's in a basement somewhere. Miami Dolphin linebacker. Mr. Bryant Young, a defensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Richard Seymour, most notably with the New England Patriots, but he did finish his career in Oakland. John Lynch, Tampa Bay Buccaneers safety, played for the Denver Broncos as well. Current GM for the San Francisco 49ers. Mr. Steve Atwater, hard-hitting safety, most notably with the Denver Broncos, but he did finish his career with the New York Jets. We've got Leroy Butler as part of the final 15, another safety, Green Bay Packers. Reggie Wayne, Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning's most accomplished, at least from a statistical standpoint, receiver. Torrey Holt.
What did he say?
We'll keep moving. Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt, St. Louis Rams receiver. He did finish his career in Jacksonville. Torrey Holt's battery mate, Isaac Bruce, of the Los Angeles and St. Louis Rams. He did finish his career for a year in San Francisco. Mr. Sam Mills, linebacker for the New Orleans Saints and Carolina Panthers. Mr. Tony Baselli, short-lived career left tackle for Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Alan Faneca, a guard, Pittsburgh Steelers. He did finish his career in New York and Arizona. And then lastly, Mr. Steve Hutchinson, another guard, Seattle Seahawks, evenly split between Seattle and Minnesota. He did do his final year in Tennessee. For this hot topic, my question for you guys, of that 15, and it's a compelling list, not necessarily because they're sexy names.
Because they're not.
I think there's one name that we know for sure, surefire first ballot. I think we can all agree, Troy Polamalu, right?
Hair.
The hair. The hair is the first ballot, and he's in there. But who are your other 4 of this list? I'll start with you, Redo.
Why would you start with me on this bullshit? All right. I'm going to go with Edgerrin James.
Okay.
John Lynch. Reggie Wayne, because he's attached to Peyton. I truly believe Holt and Bruce deserve to be in there, but I think they cancel each other out.
What?
I think they do.
All right. So they cancel each other. So you got Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James, John Lynch, which is interesting, and your last one?
Zach Thomas.
Okay, Omar.
Can we find him?
Will you give a speech?
Man, I kind of want him to get voted in.
It'd be interesting.
I kind of want him to get voted in because I want to hear you talk. I want to see your face.
Ooh.
Do you agree with Edgerrin James Jr. Blue?
No.
Okay, so who are your 4?
My 4, Steve Atwater. I felt like he was one of the dominant safeties of his time.
Okay.
I have, of course, Troy.
Yep.
Isaac Bruce. The reason I had Isaac Bruce over Wayne and over Holt is because his numbers are better, and he's been up 4 times already. He's been a finalist 4 times. So if your numbers are better, you have a championship, then I don't feel like you can go ahead and I don't think Wayne can get in before him or Holt can get in before him.
Right.
So,
and to that, because I agree. I agree with Isaac Bruce that he's one of my 4. Also, he was killing before Torrey Holt got there.
Right.
I remember him because as a kid, I was reading, I'm a newspaper kid. So I'm reading a newspaper. I'm reading the box scores. When you look at all of the reception categories, it was Jerry Rice And then it was Isaac
Brother,
Bruce.
bro.
So yeah, I agree with you with Isaac Bruce.
And then I put Alan Faneca in there because he was dominant for a decade. I mean, he was an all-pro 8 years.
Yep.
And then Tony Baselli, the reason I put him in there is the same reason I would put Terrell Davis in the Hall of Fame. He had a dominant 7 years. Baselli had a dominant 6 years.
Right.
Where he was the best left tackle, if not the best, one of the top 2 left tackles in the game. And he dominated for his time. So I feel like if Terrell Davis can get in, so can Tony Baselli.
I'm not mad at I'm not mad at your list. I agree with you, Red O, with Edgerrin James. I think Edgerrin James as a running back, like the story of Peyton Manning and Marvin and Reggie can't be told without Edgerrin James, and his numbers are there. I agree with you, Junior Blue, with Isaac Bruce and Alan Faneca as well. And then I had Steve Hutchinson. I went back and forth between Hutchinson and Baselli, and maybe it's because of the position that they play, where like Terrell Davis, it feels like, yeah, he should be in there. I'm not mad at your logic, though, that says that if Terrell is in there, Baselli should be in it, because you're right. Baselli, for the 5-6 years that he played, was the best left tackle in football. Kev, who are your 4?
So I have Tony Baselli for the reasons less mentioned. Steve Atwater also for the reasons less mentioned. But there was a point in the first 6 years of my life where I was a Broncos fan. We're moving on. As far as receivers, I had to pick between who was a better receiver, Reggie Wayne, Isaac Bruce. And for the reasons you mentioned, I went with Isaac Bruce. Steve Hutchinson, because let's remember, he blocked for 2 of the most important running backs in this century, Sean Alexander and Adrian Peterson. Alexander won the MVP, and I think AP was getting to that point, and then Hutchinson ended up leaving before that MVP year. But assuming, as they do sometimes, you won't necessarily get 2 guys from the same position, whether it be Faneca Baselli and Hutchinson, or 2 receivers, 2 safeties, whether it be Atwater and Palomalu. I don't think we could overlook Steve Tasker, because if this past weekend did not show us how important special teams are, he was the best all-around special teams player probably that the NFL has seen. And I think a lot of people overlook that because it's special teams. So if I had to take out one of those guys for Tasker, I would say maybe I'd take Hutchinson out for Tasker. But that would be my 5.
You might be right, because the NFL is no longer overlooking special teams coaches. Any excuse not.
Tell us how you feel.
Tell us how you feel. We can't even get to the Patriots before Omar. We gonna get to the Patriots, Redo.
Any excuse not to hire a Negro. So let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, as is our custom, we provide prescriptions for the sick ones. The sick ones being the teams that have no shot at competing for the Super Bowl. We've got a little bit of a backlog because of the holiday break, but we're gonna get through it. And we'll stay with you, Kevin. Kevin, you have the New Orleans Saints, who they just got dismissed. And then we have the Los Angeles Rams, who, after making it to the Super Bowl last season, didn't even make the playoffs. They finished at 9-7. Kevin, the Saints, they got some things they need to work out. Kevin, talk to me.
Yeah, I had a long list of things that they've done in the last, 12 months that I can't explain. But they're big issues going into this offseason, and I think it's so funny because Devin and I had this conversation like 3 weeks ago, and me and him were really on polar opposite ends here. But I do think that Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they are responsible for why the Saints constantly get to this position every year, but they're also the reason why they don't get any further. And they haven't since their Super Bowl. Because I don't think their style of play, I know it sounds cliche, I know I feel like I repeat this every week, but their style of play does not translate in January, whether they're home or not. And I think it's because they struggle with teams who are good in the trenches, teams who can run the ball, who can make you one-dimensional, which we've seen the Vikings do, at least 2 out of the last 3 years against them. And they're currently relying on one player to basically carry them in any sport, specifically football. It's a recipe for disaster. And I think they need to rely more on their running game, develop new ways that they can beat teams when Drew Brees isn't at his best, which at times he isn't come playoff time, which was my argument towards Devin. He's great. He breaks all these records and all this we talked about a few weeks ago. But when it comes time to fuck, Brees don't bring his equipment. I'm sorry. I mean, he had that interception, that bonehead interception at the end of the first half, where the fact that Sean Payton did not let the clock go to the 2-minute warning, they snapped the ball for him to throw it downfield in double coverage, it gets picked off. Then after the Taysom Hill play, he gets sacked and fumbles the ball. They turn it over. Vikings go down and scored, at least I think off of one of those. So I think ultimately they have a decision to make. They got 3 quarterbacks on their roster, Breeze, Bridgewater, Taysom Hill. I think they have to try to keep 2 of those guys, and Taysom Hill is the one who must stay. So I think they have to decide if they decide to go with Bridgewater and use which I don't think they'll do, but let's say they go with Bridgewater and use Taysom Hill as a Swiss Army knife, that will force them to then invest in their running game, invest in a better offensive line that can play this time of year, because they had I think their right tackle, Ryan, I can't pronounce his last name, but he didn't give up a sack all season, and then he gets roasted in the playoffs. It just seems like they're built to win their division, but they're not built to beat other contending teams. So I really think they're at a crossroads this season where they have to decide how long they want to hitch the Drew Brees wagon, because every season is going to continue to end this way.
That was very good, Kev. Very good. Stay with you.
I had more, but you know what? Whatever.
Go to the Rams.
Oh, well, this is a lot more difficult. Let's just say they don't have the flexibility that the Rams have. That the Saints have.
They don't believe in yoga.
I don't think they believe in anything after what we saw this year. Like you said, they made the Super Bowl last year, and they were completely underwhelming as a team this year. They were inconsistent. They didn't get much out of their highest paid players. They lacked depth. We joked that Sean McVay, wishes he could go back into the future and reverse some of these decisions they made in terms of paying certain guys and trading farm to get certain guys. They obviously need a defensive coordinator after moving on from Wade Phillips. You got Rob Marinelli's always out there. They could promote from within. Their DB coach Aubrey Pleasant is out there. I think he's a young guy that the organization speaks highly of. I also think they should consider bringing in like a fresh mind for their offense, because McVay's, I think we're all kind of hip to their game now. If not his style of play, then the fact that his players can't execute what made them so unique the last few years. This is kind of a curveball, but Jay Gruden's out there, and shit, McVay worked on his staff in Washington. I don't know what their relationship is like, but he's an offensive mind, and I think they need to have someone who can look at this team, bring a new approach to it, because it's not only is it underwhelming, but it's stale. We can pretty much predict what they're going to do on offense. They have to pay Jalen Ramsey. They gave up everything to get him, so you better open up the bank, pay him, keep him, and hope he plays up to the billing and what he was in Jacksonville. They got to ask Jared Goff to restructure that. This is the definition of Indian giving. Like, look,
sir.
I know
we said this.
I know that I fucked up, but I got issues. You got issues.
Let's have issues together.
At least try to extend that money down the line to give them some, if they're going to stick with Goff, to give them some type of flexibility moving forward. And I think a decision they don't want to make, but they should probably make, is to trade Todd Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't find, as the criticisms that we can have about Goff are legitimate, but it's harder to find quarterback than it is a running back. And they may have his replacement on the roster. And I think they need to trade him to get some type of depth, because there's no way you can keep paying him and Goff and Ramsey and Donald, and you're in the toughest division in football.
All of a sudden.
I mean, if the Cardinals pass you next year, some people are going to get fired. So I think you got to make some roster moves to free up some cap room, get some depth on that team, because it's not there.
That's great. And it's interesting you make the point about McVay, because I think part of the reason why they've moved on from Wade Phillips, which was just announced a couple of days ago, was because this season McVay was taking a greater interest in defense. And so I think he is sort of at this crossroads in his career where he's got to become more of a head coach.
And that's what they brought him in for in the first place. What's his name?
Wade Phillips.
Because he got head coach experience.
Right. So part of that should also be maybe looking at bringing in another offensive mind to coordinate the offense. We'll stay in the NFC. I had the Philadelphia Eagles and I have Junior Blues Now, Las Vegas Raiders will start in Philadelphia. Their season ended mercifully on Sunday because, I mean, I don't know how many more injuries
Jesus.
they could have taken. I think the biggest thing for them is not to overreact. It's funny, I was saying to Ambassador Dad on Sunday, the Eagles came into the season with the most depth in the NFL, and it all went to shit this season. Having said that, though, there are some things that they can address. I think they've got to address the secondary, and they have to address their receivers. They'll have close to $50 million in cap space. They've got 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. And so I think you've got to figure out what direction you want to go. Malcolm Jenkins has already come out and said he's not coming back on the same deal. I think you wave bye-bye to the pig, to the man that wants to be a pig. And you move Rasul Douglas to safety. And then I think you, with those 7 picks, you've got to draft safeties. Grant Delpit out of LSU. Clemson safety is pretty good. You get you a safety or you get you a receiver. And I think you use your money in free agency to get you a corner, Logan Ryan. They like Jalen Mills. They're going to bring Jalen Mills back. They still got Sidney Jones, who they've drafted. I don't think they've given up on him. But you've got Logan Ryan. You've got James Bradbury. You've got Byron Jones. I think you need to get you a corner. That's what you want to spend your money on, is getting a corner. And then you need a backup quarterback. Josh McCown is 40 years old. He's coaching high school football. Carson Wentz, whether it's fair or unfair, listen, this was the first season he played all 16 games, and then in the most important game of the season, he got hurt. Again, wasn't his fault. When they won a Super Bowl, they won it with a backup quarterback. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be out there to get, whether you want a veteran, a seasoned veteran, whether you want somebody that just has some experience, one of Washington's, backup quarterbacks. You got Teddy Bridgewater out there. You're going to have options. But I think you definitely need a backup quarterback as well. And then I think Philadelphia will be right back in the mix. The Raiders, on the other hand, weird space. I think we don't hear John Gruden come out and say that he's off of Mr. Carr. We hear rumors. We hear smoke.
Because he would never say it.
We know that he likes veteran-ish quarterbacks. I'm not going to torture Les and say that there's a certain veteran quarterback. But I think they've got to clear up what they want to do with Derek Carr, and whether that's drafting a quarterback. They've got the 12th and the 19th pick, or whether it's bringing in someone for competition or just moving on from him. I mean, I think they could move on from him this year and it'd only be a $5 million cap hit. But I think you got to make a choice. And to be fair, listen, Derek Carr had a career high in completion percentage. They say he didn't push the ball down the field. There was no one to really push the ball down the field to. Antonio Brown, we saw what he did. Tyrell Williams played 1 week. And I remember we had the conversation before the season started. You was like, I think it could be a number 180. Like, listen, he was not that. Now, he did play injured. So I think you've got to give Carr another chance. I don't know that there's anything out there that can be better. But what you can do with the cap space that you have is I think you've got to get you a corner. I think Chris Harris or some of those other corners that I've mentioned, Logan Ryan, that are there, you get you a corner. And I wouldn't be mad if you made a play for A.J. Green. He could be what you thought Antonio Brown was going to be this year. Because I think that offense with a number 1 receiver, a legitimate number 1 threat, and we saw what Darren Waller is, Hunter Renfrow, and now you got Tyrell at the position he should be, which is a 2/3. I think that offense does things, and I think Derek Carr, he can work with that. So, and then I think the other thing to address is you've got to address linebacker. In terms of free agents, you don't have a lot. You got Corey Littleton. You got Jamie Collins, though, who, he plays well in New England. He left New England. He wasn't so great. Came back to New England. And literally the first 5-6 weeks of the season, he was their defensive MVP. But I think you've got to get a linebacker. You've got money. Mayock's got a vision. He's got a plan. I think it starts with bringing some clarity to the quarterback situation. I think that's where it begins with the Raiders. But they've got an opportunity, I think, with a couple of tweaks, get you that number 1 receiver and get you a number 1 elite corner. You've got Mullen as the rookie. on the other side who's pretty good, and he's young. Get you a veteran in there, and I think the Raiders can be in the mix. Junior Blue, you've got the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm gonna start with the Cowboys because they were easy. Fire Jason Garrett.
Bam!
Boom!
Boom! Gun!
We done.
Let's move on.
How you feel about McCarthy?
I actually like McCarthy.
Okay.
I think he will be good for them. He will show some innovation to their offense because it had become real stale. And I think that's what they needed. They definitely needed a new voice. Outside of that, they have to sign Dak. I say you sign him to a deal that is heavy up front, right? He wants the $30-40 million. I'm not necessarily giving him that, but I will structure it to where he gets a huge lump sum early.
He getting
you
30.
give him 2-3 years, and you can be out of it if you need. That way, Mike McCarthy has someone in here who knows how to play, who is pretty good, and let's see what he can do.
Okay.
They need to sign Byron Jones, their cornerback, because without him, their secondary is the worst secondary in football. So they need to sign him. Amari Cooper. I was really on the fence about Amari Cooper because honestly, I don't. For what he's going to command, let's say they franchise him, it's going to be like $19 million to franchise him. If they don't, they're going to be spending, $50 million over the next few years on him. They should have seen in the last 2 years that he is as inconsistent of a wide receiver as you can get. His numbers in totality look great.
Yep.
But if you look at it,
But when you need him,
when you break it down, he has one game of 188 yards. The next game, he has 30. If you have him on your fantasy team, that kills your squad. Guess what? It kills the Cowboys too.
Yeah.
So do you want to spend that much money on someone who's so inconsistent? They can go out and get someone like T. Higgins in the draft. They can, CeeDee Lamb will probably be gone.
Yep.
But there's a few wide receivers who now you have them in a rookie contract. You're going to be paying a top corner. You're going to be paying a quarterback top money. So are you really going to pay an inconsistent wide receiver that money when you can go get one for a lower price in the draft? They have $84 million in cap space. But when you think about what Dak's going to command, what Byron Jones is going to command, you're going to lose somebody like Malik Collins.
Yeah.
They're a defensive tackle. You're going to lose somebody like that because he's going to need big money also.
Right.
So I'm almost on the let Amari Cooper go. Let him go
and come back to the Raiders, huh?
No. Wait till I get to the Bills.
I got a spot for it.
Wait till I get to the Bills.
It all works out.
So basically, their number one thing is they had to get rid of Garrett. Because honestly, as much as I talk shit about the Cowboys, they are a good team.
Yep.
They just needed to be motivated right and pointed in the right direction.
Clapping ain't it.
And that's not it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, will McCarthy and Jerry Jones get along? Because apparently Jerry Jones' type, but we know how that goes. He always has these relationships with his
Actually,
coaches.
will him and Zeke get along? Because he's never had a top 10 running game in his whole career.
That would have been that's what I said to Devin on Sunday. That my number one question is, if I was Jerry Jones, is okay, so how many times, because I didn't already paid Zeke, so I need a commitment on how many carries he's getting.
How many
At least
good
20.
running backs did he have? Was his best running back Fat Lacey? And
What's his name? Who's the Green Bay Packers running back right now?
Aaron Jones.
He was on there when he was on the team when
he was a rookie.
He was still proving himself, yeah.
He wasn't.
Just saying.
That's a good question.
He's had running
that's
backs.
a good
He's
question.
never had. He's never had great running backs, but he's never been. It's not in his DNA. Certain coaches, they run the ball. He does not do it. I would like to see him do it.
Perspective.
But no, I want to see him with someone like Zeke.
Right.
Does Zeke get 15 carries a game because it's McCarthy? I think he gets more. That offensive line, Zeke, as good as Zeke is, I think he gets more.
All
so
right.
let's see. Now, on to the Buffalo Bills, who, to me, are in a position that nobody's been in for 20 years.
All right. And what's that?
Ready to take over the AFC East.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So their defense is one of the best in the league. So they really need to they need to sign White, Tre'Davious today, yesterday, right now, whatever you want.
Yep.
Give it to him. He's a shutdown corner. Whatever top wide receiver you line up against him, he does it. They have Edmonds at middle linebacker who is fast and young.
And breathing all the air.
Man, he's 21.
Yeah, with a
And
big
it's his
as nose.
Yeah. So their defense is pretty much set up.
Mhm.
They don't need their offense. They knew they had an issue on offense when they tried to get Antonio Brown before the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They needed some kind of playmaker.
Yeah.
Thank God they didn't,
Right.
because
Who might
who
have
knows exactly.
T-row the season.
So they need to they need to get playmakers. Whether it's the draft, they can draft someone like T. Higgins, like CD Lamb. They can go out and get someone like Amari Cooper, AJ Green. All their top wide receivers are all under 6 feet.
That's right.
And that's a problem.
Yep.
You know, Josh Allen, not sold on him, but he has done enough, especially in the second half of the season, when he said, you know what? I can actually run.
Right.
Because for some reason, the first half of the season, he didn't run.
Right.
And they struggled even more on offense. But I think if they were to get more playmakers, Singletary.
Devin Singletary is nice.
Their running back, he is nice for what they have. They can bring Frank Gore back.
Right.
Frank Gore goes in there, gets his 3 yards.
Keeps moving up. Keeps moving up the all-time rushing list.
Hey, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Crazy. That's gonna be a crazy discussion.
So, that to me, the Bills are in a great position. It looks like they probably have their quarterback of the future. They have a defense that not only is good, but is young. They have an offense that if you were to put playmakers in there, playmakers at the wide receiver, give them a Amari Cooper or a AJ Green, or if they draft one, like give them someone like Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
Even someone like that
Right.
would elevate their offense.
That's actually a good fit because it hurts your division rival in the Jets. He's over 6 feet and he's also fast. And Josh Allen has a gun. Yeah.
So I mean,
he's already in New York.
So you put that together, I think Buffalo Bills will be all right.
All right.
I do think their fan base should be pretty optimistic. So should their organization. But what the fuck were they doing last week? Yo, I haven't seen a team lose a game 7 different ways like that in a long time.
Well, Josh Allen, and I think that's got to be the key for this offseason. He's got to continue to develop his footwork. He's also got to develop mentally. It's their first time in that environment.
Yeah, they
because he
weren't ready.
completely
And
shit
they're
the
young.
bed. Fourth quarter, he saw the same ghost that Sam Darnold was seeing on Monday Night Football. He was seeing.
Motherfucker threw a no-look behind the back. Oh, God.
All right, Redo, you've got the New England Patriots when it's been a long time since we've actually done this for them. And we also have the Cleveland Browns.
The Patriots have Belichick. As long as you have Belichick, you are never going to be far from success. But they are at a crossroads, and the rumors are that it's Belichick's choice this year. And if it's Belichick's choice, the writing's on the wall. Tom Brady, get the fuck on out. Thank you for nice to see you. He's going to be a Raider next year. I mean, it's time to move on anyway. And Belichick is the coach who is not sentimental. You know, he wanted to get rid of Brady a couple years ago, and Kraft stepped in the way. I don't think Kraft gets in the way this time. I think Brady is gone. And I think we have all mentioned him. Teddy Bridgewater is probably the best veteran that's available this year. Peyton has said he is one of the smartest quarterbacks he's ever coached. He picks up offenses easy, and I know Belichick would love a veteran quarterback who's smart. And he has 12 draft picks this season, off season, and they can probably get a quarterback that will fit his system. And Bridgewater can be the gap. Now, if he goes to Bridgewater and say, "Hey, come on," then you got options like AJ. We've all said AJ Green. If he goes to AJ Green and say, "Let me get you a ship," or Emmanuel Sanders, one or two. They need a tight end in the draft, O-line and D-line. And they need to hold on to free agents, Devin McCourty, Calvin Noy, and John Tooney?
Yep.
Or Thuney. But the biggest thing this offseason will be Brady.
Yeah. So you think that they're cutting ways?
Yes. I mean, it's bullshit by saying, hey, he sold his house, his trainer sold his house, but he is talking as if, listen, I'm playing. Not that I'm playing for the Patriots,
But I'm playing
another year. And we all know Belichick cuts bait before, not after.
Do you still trust and believe in Belichick if Josh McDaniels isn't there?
I don't think it's Josh
So no
McDaniels.
Brady,
I don't think
no Brady, and no McDaniels.
How do you know Josh McDaniels not going to be there?
Because there's a job still available in Cleveland.
Yeah, again, you're saying that he got the job.
I'm just saying, do you still trust in him? Is the because the system that you're talking about, a lot of the system that they run, it's at least from an offensive perspective, is that
I honestly don't think since I have them. Yeah. Next, right. I don't think he is going to be.
See
there.
What I did there?
Yes.
Segue.
I think he's going to be in New England still.
Okay.
Mainly because of what they need in Cleveland. And I don't think he's the guy to do it.
Okay.
In Cleveland, they need a head coach and they need a GM because their organization is shit. So, if you would have listened to Paul in the first place,
Paul DiPodesta,
who did he want last year?
He wanted Kevin Stefanski.
Is Paul leading the interviews this year?
He is leading the interviews this year.
I guarantee you Kevin Stefanski is going to be there. I don't guarantee it, but I think he has a great shot if he wants it.
Okay.
And then you allow Paul and Kevin to pick the GM so you have a front office that works together with each other to move forward. Which is what a good organization should do.
Yeah.
But the problem is we know they're not a fucking good organization, so who knows? But that's what they should do.
Right.
Because if they would listen to my man last year, we might not be in the same problems we have this year. Then they need to figure out what they're going to do with Dick Soup.
With who?
Dick Soup.
We're listening.
The wide receiver.
We're still listening.
What's his fucking name?
Odell Beckham.
Yes, Dick Soup. You know what I'm talking about. We're making videos. Anyway, do they keep him?
You could have been talking about the other one.
Nah, he knew what I'm talking about. Do you keep him? Do you trade him? He said telling people to get rid of him, to come get him. If they hire a head coach, can they convince him to stay? Do you say you're keeping him?
Omar was doing so well.
Listen,
hey man,
resolution out the window.
You gave him the Browns.
They need O-line help.
Yes,
they do.
They're lucky. This is a O-line talent draft.
Yes.
It's a rare occurrence where you're going to have this much O-line talent in the draft. They can go get Jedrick Wills from Alabama. So, like, if they can get one or two of the good O-linemen out there, that's a start. They already have enough talent. Their main 50% of their problem is their organization. So if they solve the organizational problems, that they're halfway to success.
From your lips to God's ears for all the fans in Cleveland.
And Dick Soup.
All right, before we get out of here, probably the most important part of the show, we've got the Elite Eight in the NFL remaining this weekend. We've got some big games. Our engineer and the owner of this studio is a big San Francisco 49ers fan.
As he's been saying all year.
As you all know, we've got some Ravens fans that are ambassadors.
Just a couple.
Those two number one seeds they've got some big games. We'll save those for last. We'll start Saturday with the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs, the Houston Texans. This is a rematch from, I believe, week 2 or 3 in the season. The Houston Texans actually went on the road to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs. In that game, Tyreek Hill was injured early. The defense that Steve Spagnuolo was putting in was still getting in place, and they were up until they weren't. Deshaun Watson did what Deshaun Watson does. And so, Kev, I'll start with you. Kansas City, Houston. Can Houston do it again, sir?
They could, but I don't think they will, just because they make too many mistakes. They're too one-dimensional, too relying on Deshaun Watson to do black quarterback things. And I think that Kansas City being well-rested, they revamped their defense. Mahomes is out there to prove something. Andy Reid got to do it or don't. I'm going with the Chiefs.
Redo?
I'm going with the Chiefs, and I think they pull away in the second half.
Junior Blue.
I'm going with the Chiefs. I think the Texans, they've had too many games where they just flopped. you don't know what you're going to get from the Texans. You know what you're going to get from KC.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I don't even think it's close. And the one thing I do want to say about Deshaun Watson, Kevin, first of all, said early in the season he's going to die on the football field. I kind of believe that. But he has got to get better about getting rid of the football. Not only for his health and his career preservation, but to be a better quarterback. He has so much potential, and he makes great plays, but he holds on to the ball entirely too long. You'll see it Sunday. I think Kansas City wins in a wash. Let's go to the other game that's not as important. We've got on Sunday the Seattle Seahawks, who defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round on the road. Taking their road show, the Russell Wilsons are going to Green Bay. Green Bay, home field advantage, at least for this round. Who you got? Junior Blue.
This was hard.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks are a better team and have more talent. I'm going to go in and beat them in Green Bay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Redo?
I think you have an argument to say that Russell Wilson is the best player in NFL right now. And I will never pick fucking Green Bay.
Probably should have seen that.
You knew that was
I deserve that.
But I'm real about Russell Wilson. I think Seattle's going to win this game.
A lot of the Green Bay Packers are dealing with the flu.
Yep.
And I think that there is going to be a flu bug in that game, and his name is Marshawn Lynch. Pete Carroll said that he's ready to go, and he's going to knock the flu out of them. I think that they control the ball, and Russell Wilson will make plays. And to your point about New Orleans, something you said earlier, Kevin, the Packers only have one receiver, Devontae Adams. You got to have more than one weapon in order to win in the playoffs. I like Seattle to win. Kev?
I almost forgot. Let me talk my shit for a second. As the back-to-back picks winner, season picks winner, beat everybody on the pod, beat everybody at ESPN. I wouldn't be a winner if I follow suit with all of you guys, even though I think this is the toughest game to pick. Seattle they are the road warriors of the season. I think Green Bay has one of the best home field advantages. I don't know, just something in my bones, my instinct, my ability to pick games well. I don't know. I feel Green Bay. I don't know why. I've been saying it all season. I've been cursing them, but I just feel like they're better. They're built for this time of year. I think they're better than what they've shown us throughout the regular season.
All right, Kev, we'll stay with you. Drake's on the bandwagon. Big trust.
Listen, man.
Why is Baltimore going to win?
First off, Drake ruins everything, and I hate him. And if he starts rapping in a Baltimore accent, I'm fucking done. But he's better off calling fucking Tom Hanks' son. He can get a quick pad swapper check off the cuff.
It wasn't bad.
Refocus. It was appropriating. So yeah, I just feel like the Ravens. I just feel like we're the better team. Just take the glasses off. I think we're the better team. Yes, they do have that knockout punch, but it's a punch we've played against before. We're at home. It's going to be like 55, 60 degrees. Our season's not going to end this weekend. I don't see it. And as balanced as I thought Tennessee was, I don't know if it was a scheme thing or just matchups, but man, Ryan Tannehill looked like Miami Dolphins Ryan Tannehill last week. I don't know if that carries over or how he can play better against a better defense that the Ravens have.
He's been playing like that for 7 weeks. Anybody disagree with Kev on Baltimore?
No, I got the Ravens.
All right. And then the final game, I think the most compelling game, and it's funny that Mike's out the room, probably because we're running late and we got to wrap up. Minnesota, San Francisco. As soon as Minnesota won, I told Devin, I said, listen, and Minnesota's going to go to San Francisco, and they're going to beat San Francisco. The way you stop an aggressive front is running the football. And so what it's going to come down to is Kyle Shanahan. Does he go against Tight, who likes to run, he likes to motion, and put the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands to beat those corners? Or does he remain stubborn or be stubborn and try to run against that tough Minnesota front? And in Minnesota's standpoint, it's all lined up perfectly for them. They run the ball. That's what Zimmer wants to do. It's what makes Kirk Cousins good, because then you can do the play action off of that. Redo?
A broken clock is right twice a day. Just because he did the shit once don't mean all of a sudden he's going to play good in big games when he's never done it before.
All right.
There's more information saying he's not going to play good. And this is an even bigger game against a great defense. Kirk Cousins will be the downfall of Minnesota this week.
All right.
I got San Francisco, and I have Deebo Samuels having a huge game.
Huge game. Kev.
Another tough game. I think San Fran is a better version of the Vikings. And I think it'll come down, not even to Kirk Cousins. I think their front is just going to give Minnesota's front problems. They're just well-balanced, so I'm going with San Fran.
All right. We will see you next week. This has been another episode of 32 Kings Road. As a reminder, follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. Check out our website, theleagueam.com. Please subscribe to and follow our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. And we will see you next week. Cheerio.
Meet us at the bank, bitch.
We busted in. We broke down the door. We came to win. TLA season 4. It's a whole new game. We the agents of change. Whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk. It's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.